This is a vision that I had that started Tuesday the 17th during a meeting. The very first thing that I saw was what I would call a maze, but it was like a hedge maze, which is like made out of trees and plants or something like that. Well, hedges. And inside this maze were all these cars that were trying to head somewhere, but they got stuck in this maze and they couldn't go forward. So people were trying to get out of their cars, but they couldn't open the doors because the hedge was right there. So you could see people really struggling and frustrated about the situation that they were in. And then next to them, side by side, next to this maze, was this highway. And there was a woman who drove up onto the highway, and she stopped and got out of her car. And you could see that she was focused on something, like enamored with something. She got out of her car and was fully capable of getting out because nothing was blocking her. And she began to walk forward towards something with her eyes fixed and focused. And this, although side by side with this hedge maze, and I don't know where the hedge maze was, but this was a spiritual plane that's clear by what begins to happen, but or a realm. Anyway, so she starts to walk forward, and as she's on this road, I'm not sure if you could see this by now. I can't remember now. Yeah, you can. So she sees what looks like either the temple of the Lord or the city of the Lord or the kingdom of God. I'm not quite sure, but it was a beautiful, I want to say the temple was what was first, and also maybe the kingdom as well, but the temple is what was first. Anyway, they're up. You have to go up these stairs to get to it. And so as she's staring at it, she doesn't lose her focus, but what comes towards her is these beasts. They're these dark beasts, and they have a dark rider. So the rider is cloaked in darkness and the beast is in darkness, but they're different. What they're riding on is different, each animal. There's for sure a bear. I don't know what else. I know there's other beasts, but I can't remember what they are. So they go past her, and she just sort of looks at them as they go past her. One thing to note that I noticed in this vision was that situations or scenarios had the opportunity to change. When I originally saw her, because the Lord had brought me through this vision quite a few times to get to its end, and things had changed. And I do believe that the Lord was sharing with me that, outcomes do change upon what takes place here. So first, she had been almost trampled by these beasts and in a hidden, hiding, fetal position on the edge of the steps while they walked over her. And they didn't crush her, but she was afraid, and she was in a position of fear and hiding. And as some time went on, as I'm being shown the vision, the Lord was showing me that it, depending on, I think, where this woman, what her hope and belief and things like that, and decisions and obedience and discipline and things like that were, her stance changed in this place. So it ended up that she just watched it walk by and they ignored her, but continued on back towards where she came from. When she approached the steps, there was someone there. Right there on the first step off to the right, there was a man, and he was Egyptian, and he had a box. I don't know how to explain the size of this box, maybe 4 feet by 5 feet, maybe. It was a rectangle. Anyway, and out of this box, you could see he had some sort of staff or I don't know how else to describe it. Scepter, maybe. Anyways, he stood over this box. I think it originally had a lid, and he opened it, and it seemed like it was made of some sort of like concrete or something at first. Anyway, he began to let things out of the box. And the very first thing he let out I saw was like pigeons and ducks and things like that. But anyway, I think this is where those beasts had come from. They had been let out of this box. And so she sort of stood at the bottom before. She wanted to go up the steps, but she couldn't go forward up these steps. And then he began to hand her things. And she began to put them on. And I believe it was what looked like to me, he began to hand her parts of the armor of God. Well, what I guess I want to say they were a false armor of God. I mean, obviously, I don't fully understand vision, so this has to be interpreted. But anyway, she began to put on a sword, and they came to her as scrolls, and then they turned into the armor. So she put them on, a sword, a belt, a helmet. She just put these things on. And she remained there, and she wasn't able to go up these steps. Well, all of a sudden, she starts to see things differently because her eyes, they change color. They change into this bright blue that I've seen before, representing the Holy Spirit. And as her eyes change color, this picture forms before her eyes. So it's almost like this little television right in front of her eye where she can see into the galaxies and into deeper understanding of things and different realms and things. So things are now opened up to her that she hadn't seen before. And once this happens, she is able to understand better. And a lot of things also happen in this place that I can't describe. I don't understand how. And they wouldn't make any sense. But anyway, this is the best way to describe what I'm able to explain. But once this happens, she takes off this sword and she starts to take off this armor, and she actually throws it down and it shatters. And then at this point, she takes a sword from within her. So it's a spiritual sword, and she's able to go forward and actually destroy this Egyptian and his box. And as she cuts into the box, you can see it's made of clay inside of the outside layer. It's like a red clay of some sort. And once she destroys the box, and I believe the man might have been made of clay as well. When she destroys these two things, you can see actually the inner workings. It was very strange because after these things were dashed, behind it was almost like a cogs and I don't know. The best way I can describe it is if you took the face off of a watch and you saw the inner workings of a watch and how it works. Like an old-fashioned watch, obviously, not a new technological one or technical one. Anyway, and you can see all the things turning and moving. Her destroying this box and this man allowed her to see how this worked and how it functioned and how it brought forth its evil and its deception and the things that it allowed to come forth. Anyway, after she destroyed that, she was able to go up the steps. But the strange thing, this is what was strange, was she actually stood up onto the steps. Even deeper realms of heaven began to be opened in a way, because That's hard to explain, but actually I already forgot a part. One thing she had right before she began to walk up these steps, in her hand, she had a ring, a gold banded ring. And on this gold banded ring, there were 7 smaller rings around it. And each ring stood for something. And when I asked the Lord what they were, this is sort of what he explained to me. He let me watch them sort of be created. So there were 7 hooked onto this bigger golden ring, and each one, as it zoomed into it, I could see what was on each ring. So the first ring that I saw being basically engraved onto the ring was Earth. So it was being created or engraved onto this ring. So I saw all the countries being made on Earth. The second ring was creating frequencies of some sort. I don't understand that. I don't know what that means, just frequencies. The third ring was creating formulas. I also don't really understand what that means, but that's what it was. The fourth ring, the best way that I can describe what this looked like to me is like a polygraph or like a lie detector test, which I found out it measures physiological arousal factors. I don't know. That's just what it does, I guess, to detect. But it was doing that with mammals and humans. So it wasn't just humans. It was mammals as well. Or animals anyway. Number 5 was, it was creating natural occurrences. This ring it was lightning, thunder, tornado, hurricane, things like that. It was creating natural occurrences. The 6th ring had white light occurrences, like in the like signs in the skies and atmosphere and type of stuff. But it was white light is what came to me, what was said to me by the Lord, and I don't fully understand what that means either. And then the 7th thing was rain or rainbows, basically just signs of promise, and that's how it was described to me. But it's signs of promise. Anyway, and after these rings were shown to me and explained to me, she was then able to walk up these stairs. This is also something that had changed in the vision over time of seeing it. At first, there were things that came on the stairs that were against her. I can't even remember what they were at first because it was so long ago when she had gone up these stairs and had to fight against these things. But at this point, I don't know if it was after I saw the rings or just after I saw the vision for the multiple times, they were no longer there to be in her way, no longer there for her to have to battle and fight against. She was able to walk up the stairs all the way up without any hindrances at all. Anyway, the strange thing that I was going to explain earlier was as she took her first step onto these steps were alive in a sense. And so her feet became almost like hands, and they were able to, I don't know, they just seemed intelligent. Her feet, it's so strange. Her feet seemed intelligent like hands, and were able to kind of each step touch and move things, change things, work with things. It was a different way of being here. Once you're on the steps, I guess it's just a different way of doing things and such a deeper wisdom and understanding. And I don't know, everything is just alive and part of something bigger. It's so hard to explain. So anyway, as she's walking up the steps, I could just see that, and it was just interesting, but that's what happened. So as she gets to I already forgot a part of the vision. I'm not going to go back because I'm already 15 minutes in here. When she's on the highway and she very, very first approaches those steps, she actually opens a spiritual curtain. You could see it open. It's not really a curtain. It's almost like blocks, but you can see her hands reach forward and her remove this invisible separation. So she had to remove this to expose this realm where this man in this box, these stairs, and where the temple was. All of that stuff had to be opened up. So that's what let out everything. That's what opened up and even let out these beasts and all of that. What she originally was trampled on or over, not crushed. But then later was just a bystander watching. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. So that did happen. Anywho, she's on her way up to the top of these stairs, and she gets to the very top of the stairs. There's these giant doors, which she actually has the keys for. As I see the keys, she has a key to this door, but she has many other keys on this ring. And she's able to open this door with one of those keys, and they open for her. And as she steps into the door, this area here, it to me it's part of the temple. It reminded me of an indoor, but also, I don't know how to explain this, outdoor area. So in other words, a courtyard. It's a courtyard, but it's inside. It's an indoor. Okay, no, it's not inside. It's a courtyard. And I think that's enough explanation of that. So in this place, nobody was there. And it also had a shadow on it. And it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. And it had some plants and it looked fine. It was nothing fancy. But no one was there. And I don't think she wanted to stay in this place. So after this, she saw that there was another stairway up. So she ended up taking this next stairway up. I believe this also required a key. Anyway, and so as she opened this door, this was a completely other place. This opened up basically to to me, it just looked like a galaxy. And in this place, in this galaxy, this is strange. It looked like there were a bunch of, I want to say portals almost. They just were like almost these floating doorways that could approach her and she could go into them. I know that sounds like super strange and like science fiction-y, but anyway, this is what I saw. Anyway, so she stands there and one of these openings approaches her. And this opening is so full of bright white light, like I couldn't even see in there. And she definitely couldn't see in there. It was too white. It was too bright. The light was just shining an insane amount. So she goes right into the very beginning part of it. And she had to change her clothes to go in here. And the best way to describe what she put on is to say a white jumpsuit. Like it was an item to protect her. And the two things that came to me when I saw her wearing it was like, if you're going to be a mechanic and work on cars, you have to wear a jumpsuit over your clothes so you don't get ruined by stains and things. But there's also like a bee suit to protect you from bee stings. So it was sort of like a protection, I would say. I imagine the holiness of this place and her state. Just she had to be protected because of its magnitude. So anyway, this was the throne room of God because I could see, as she could see, a little ways ahead of her was the throne. I could see Jesus. Everything was in a blur. Everything was blurry. But I could see him. And as soon as she sees him, I could see he gets up and he comes toward her. It was all slow motion. And she kind of reaches up her hand and reaches out for him. And as she's reaching out for him, he comes and he's reaching out for her as well. And when he touches her fingertip, you can see that things start to become clear and no longer fuzzy. And that was actually where the vision ended.